Sounds like a plan.
Hey, Zuma. How's it going?
We're going to start by logging into your dashboard. So make sure all you guys have your dashboards open so you can reference back to what we're going to be talking about and ask questions as you go along the way. The best thing you guys can do really is, at any point you have a question, use the chat feature, and then Logan and I will address it one at a time because it's usually questions everybody has. But let me share my screen and we'll get right into it. So I'm just going to go right to the ads you ran, and we're going to talk a little bit about them. And so here we go. If you go to, and I'm just going to mute you until you have a question, so we don't have that background noise. So all you're going to want to look at here is the performance. What you have on here, which is really cool to see, Scott, is you got a great performing ad, $1.12 a click, CPM of under 20, which is $13, which is really great. A reach of 6,800 on this particular area in Kennewick. You've got 86 clicks. You spend a total close to $100 on this one, but you had basically $1 a lead, and 40 of those put in their email. Now, the cool thing is when you actually take this a little bit further, if you go to there's a little section called submissions, and then you can kind of look, I always call this is where your lowest hanging fruit is, because you can see in the submissions section, all these leads who have put in their phone numbers. And those leads have gone through the entire funnel. Because you're going to have people like this that are blank, that didn't put in a phone number and didn't put in their name, but you know what they did? They went all the way through the funnel. That means they would have had a chance to see your brand. They would have a chance to see your name, a chance to see your face, a slogan if you would have put one in there, and a Facebook review. Okay, so the question then comes down to, for someone who didn't have that experience, you want to give them that experience. So it starts with understanding that if you go to your Facebook pages, looks like you got a lot of these pages you worked with, and click on reviews, you're going to want to choose one of these reviews as a favorite. Because as soon as you choose a review as a favorite, it automatically will pull into the funnel. And the funnel for you guys are just you're like, what's a funnel? The funnel is where they put in their address, their email, their phone numbers, and see your picture and your brand. So we want to make sure that they have an opportunity to read one of those reviews. And in many ways, it just enhances phone number and name submissions. Like they see, oh, someone's done, you get a great one, especially if you're going to be doing the seller funnel, make that review more focused on someone having a great experience selling their home with you, if that makes sense. Another thing you're going to want to get to after you make one of these a favorite is get to your profile and make sure that you have a slogan. So right now you don't have a slogan. That's another opportunity, which if you don't recognize without going into your funnel and testing this, you would never have known that next to your picture, which is actually auto pulling in from your Facebook business page, is an option to pull in a slogan. And a slogan is just basically your tagline or a one-liner that you'd want them to see as they see your picture. So, it could be a little bit about your experience. It could be, home is where the heart is. It could be any one of those things where I feel like it's just an opportunity for them to, think of it this way. You want to put something in there that would invite them to want to give you their phone number. So just try to think of something that way that just says, we talk a lot about these ideas on our Wednesday conversion meetings. We have a weekly Wednesday mastermind where we have 50 or more people on this Zoom type of call, but it's actual client of ours that are working with these leads and take them into listing appointments every day. So there's a lot of cool things we talk about, including the funnel aspect, and things like once they put in their information, guys, you need to know as soon as an email is inputted, the drip email campaign begins, and I can track to see who's opened it. Just like here, Scott, I can see that 76%, which is really high, of your leads have opened that email. So if you click on this number 42, you can see who it's been delivered to and who's opened it. And then you have guys like Troxel.Sierra, which you deleted, it might have been you or somebody else, but opened it 45 times, 27 times here. And you can see some people that reviewed it or went back to that email multiple times. But the best part of it is you can know who's received it, and then you kind of work on making sure that experience is unique from there. So this email, for example, is just in a generic email that's auto-pulling in your website information from your settings section. And it's just asking, hey, when's the last time you had your property appraised, or are there any updates or recent renovations that I should be aware of? So what we want to really hammer home from the get-go is that if you don't know, there's this free course right here where it says Taking It Further, where we teach all about the idea of utilizing video as an autoresponder. So instead of that boring generic email that just has some HTML text that most likely doesn't get a lot of response from, you could do something like this.
Hi, I'm Marley with Elevate Real Estate. I got your request for the home price valuation and I am on it. Oh, and by the way, I left a link to my Facebook profile page below. I'll just be sending you a really quick friend request. Want to make sure you get a chance to meet me. I'll talk soon. Bye.
Right? I mean, the cool thing about this, guys, is that when you consider humanizing the process from the get-go, you control the process. In this case, she's going to leave her Facebook profile in that autoresponder as well. She's going to have the opportunity for them to go profile her on Facebook. And so if I were a homeowner, for example, and I go and profile, and let me just show you and give you an example. Let's say I go profile Marley Walters because I'm a homeowner and I'm like, oh, interesting. She wants me to friend request her and drop her a message, or she's going to drop me a message. Now, let's go see who this girl is before I simply just start responding to her and even consider inviting me, inviting her into my home about a home valuation. The idea is you want that likability factor to begin. So you take Marley, for example. She's fun, she's authentic. The more content you look on her page, the more you realize she's somebody that you could totally connect with. She has, active things about her fitness. She's got great articles. She mixes, this perfect combination of the business side of her business, but also the personal side. So it's recognizing that your business page is essentially a sponsored ad environment that goes out into the news feed of those homeowners. But we want to bring them back to the personal side, because the personal side is where you become an influencer of your Facebook. And I know this is bigger picture concepts, guys, but the reason why we want you to consider that every single one of those leads began on Facebook is because when you go and send them a friend request, you then immediately get the opportunity to drop them into a list. So, let me take Marley. We're already friends, obviously, but if I show you Marley Walters again, and the idea is when you go profile somebody, like any one of those leads, what's going to happen is once you go up here where it says friends, that's the same area where it says friend request. So if we weren't friends, it would say, send friend request. And immediately when you do that, it allows you to drop them into a list. And so Marley's in my list right here. She's a referral. She's in my StreetText mastermind list. But for you guys with leads, you could create multiple lists. And so the idea might be seller leads, or the idea might be this is an address only because I pulled up tax records and I looked them up. Or it might be, any spectrum of those leads, just curious. How about 1 to 3 months out? Or how about sent a friend request to? Just so you could be tracking them, and you could put them in a multiple list, just like I'm doing here. Now, I'm not going to go too much bigger on this because we hit these on Wednesdays, but what you need to know about this personal way of recognizing that every single one of these people are the opportunity to send a request to and then drop them into a list. And what you need to know is that no matter what, okay, for example, here are trials I haven't been able to get in touch with, but you know what the cool thing is? We're not necessarily have to be friends, but they'll always be in this list. So the key is I can go to see all because I've dropped all these people in my list. And any one of these people, if I click on their profiles, I'll be able to check on my message history if one on their profile to see if we actually talked yet. So like Kayla, look, friend request sent. The idea is I know she's in a list and she's actually in trial right now, and I haven't been able to contact her. And I can know that because look, if I've sent her a video and she hasn't seen it yet. So the idea is you need to be able to see these guys as the opportunity to go back to Facebook and profile them there. And then also recognize at the same time in your dashboard, you're going to have your automation set up in such a way where you have a 9-month-long drip campaign built in where you can start personalizing those with email signatures and with videos. And then there's a whole portion of this. So let's just quickly, before we go into 2 more about this, I'm gonna stop my share for a second. Does it all make sense to you guys? I know that's a big picture model, but do you guys see what I'm doing there with that? Thumbs up. Cool. Does that make sense? Sonia, Katie, Mike, Justin, you guys are probably eating some lunch there as well. I called out. Okay, you get that, Mike? Get where I'm going with that? Okay, cool. So the idea is I'm painting that picture for you because if I just start generating you a bunch of leads right now in trial and you don't recognize that portion of this, then what's the point? Lead generation is just one picture of this, but if I'm generating leads and you can't get those leads to respond to you, or you don't recognize how to stay top of mind with them, how to nurture them, how to properly uncover what they're looking to accomplish, it's not going to be just simply reproducing CMAs all day. Because if you just hand them over a CMA, but they don't ever get the chance to meet you and recognize as a real person that you'd want to work with, because there's this whole idea on the conversion model, which is all about how to become an influencer of that database. And you never want to just simply let a machine send out these automations, because they'll never personalize that, and they'll be like, oh, thank you, I don't need you anymore, right? Or you may never even get an email opened, or let alone a reply, because you keep on sending these text-based email responses, and you're like, well, you said you were ready to sell immediately. And that's not always the case. Sometimes the just curious or even the most partial, we have actually seen address onlys that need to sell immediately, but they weren't comfortable with giving their information because they didn't know where it was going. But once you uncover what they were looking to accomplish, then it began. So that's why simply taking an extra step, especially for you guys in the States, and pulling up tax records, finding out the homeowner's name, okay, send them a friend request, drop them into that list, call it address onlys, and then send a Facebook message and play the game, because the game itself is such that if you're coming from a place of being authentic and genuine and truly trying to help get them great information, then simply sending a message to them saying, hey, received your address on Facebook requesting a home value. Now, it could have been a potential buyer or even someone who's renting your home, but I always make sure to get this back into the homeowner's hand. Is this a good way to get a hold of you? And would you like that complimentary service? You follow me on that one? And then we do have training all around the idea of, okay, well, what about a mailer? Because now on top of that, you want to consider there are a lot of cool ways to send something in the mail addressing their home value. And you just don't want to be that person that gets tossed in the garbage or the recycling bin, especially in that nature. We have even guys and it just depends on the time you have available, but that will actually door knock those people and juice themselves out the door, because they know, there's a good chance that a lot of them would have that conversation. And if you have something that is, of value to put in their hand, or even if you send something and let them know, hey, next week, I'm going to be coming by in the neighborhood. I may just drop by to say hi and to review that home value and answer any questions. And you send that in the mail first. Okay. But just recognize that every single submission is of high value for you. And so we really want to start with the idea of, okay, one, we want to measure the success of your ad. And that's where you're going to go into your ads right here. And you're just basically going to compare, we have a performance reading here for you. So you're going to see the view recommendations feature here, and you're going to know if it's a good ad or not. Because essentially we'll be telling you right off the get-go, hey, is your ad off the hook or is it not? I mean, in this case, he's got it paused right now, but you can see that it's pointing towards the blue color, which is the best performance you can get on a particular ad. And if he had it on, we'd basically say it's off the hook right now, keep it running. And the reason why we know that is because we're testing that and comparing that to our ads that we've ran across the board. So if you look at the funnel that Scott was running this from, you'd be able to look into the area of funnels, because here's the two that he ran, right? He tried one out called, and by the way, there's a message up here that says your Facebook ad currently has status unsettled. That's a quick fix. You basically just go into your Facebook ad manager and settle that. It'll bring you to the correction you need to know. So we always see that because it's a direct API integration into your ad manager section. But you're going to look at this. You ran one of our funnels that said keep a pulse on the market, and we saw that it gave you a $12 phone number and a $12 email. Not bad. But recognizing that when you looked at this one right here, and this is the one that we ran out of the seller property valuation conversion, you're averaging $1 lead, a $6 phone number, and a $2.41 email, which is amazing. Because the reason why we know that is because if we look at the funnel it came from, you can see it was ran out of the seller property valuation conversion funnel that had 2,400 active users on this one, 62% click to contact. And the average across the board is sitting at about a $2.55 lead, a $20 phone number, and a $6.65 email. So guys, what you want to recognize is you could run as many different ads and funnels as you want. But I'll tell you what, if you actually allow your mouse to go over and scroll over, you're going to see where the highest click to contact is. And I don't want you running anything that doesn't have an over 60% click to contact, which at this moment, I'm going to be honest with you, there's only one of them, this one. So don't run any other ads that doesn't have this type of opportunity to generate leads for you. Now, the cool news is we'll always, you don't have to be someone who's proficient at Facebook analytics to understand which is a good ad or not. That's why we give you a odometer reading as soon as you reach 500 people. And that takes about 24 hours. But what you're going to want to know is you're going to want to select ads to test from that anchor ad you're running. So for all of you, I don't know how many of you have ads running right now, but what you need to look at is within 500 people reached, you will have this odometer score. You will also have a relevancy score. But just follow this odometer score, and if it's sitting in the yellow, orange, or red section, turn it off. Okay, unless you're in $1 million market, and that might be, we're playing a little bit different of a game there. But if you're sitting in the green or the blue, keep it running and call that your anchor ad. Your anchor ad, meaning this is what you're going to benchmark and try to beat all your future tests against. Okay, now when we build our new ads to test against this one, we're going to build it from the light bulb and funnels section. Okay. And we're going to run it from, what would we all just talk about? Well, we know that the only ad and funnel we want to run from is in the seller property valuation conversion. So pretend that there's no other funnels available to you at this point, and only run from the seller property valuation conversion template, which is the second template, the second one within the available templates. You're literally just clicking select and building your campaign. Now, as far as what campaigns you're going to build, that's entirely up to you, but here's what we talk about. Well, Logan, go ahead and explain it, because you do this quite well in terms of understanding the difference between a macro and a micro.
Well, essentially a macro is the ability of combining all of the smaller areas that you want to go after. You can use verbiage that, once again, combines them all, something like a county, or if you guys are in the Tri-County area, the Twin Cities, the such and such school district, whatever it may be, you take all of the micros, all the smaller little areas, and you combine them with one common name. You never want to use multiple names in the ad targeting, or pardon me, in the ad copy. You want to come up with one name that makes sense for the entire area. Then within the targeting locations, you can type in those smaller areas. One example we like to use is kind of where we live here. We live in a city called Kelowna. Now, I could obviously build an ad for Kelowna, that's great. However, I'd also like to target the surrounding cities for us. So I would use the Okanagan. That's how we would describe our group of areas. Then in targeting locations, I would choose Kelowna, which is where we live. I would also probably put in Penticton. I would put in Summerland, Vernon, Peachland. We have all these crazy names for places around here, of course. But it then gives me the ability to target myself, as well as, roughly 50 miles away from us, all giving the name to Okanagan. Every single person who lives in Kelowna, Vernon, Penticton, Peachland, Summerland, all these places that are within an hour of us, they all consider themselves the Okanagan. So for my macro ad, this is what I would build. If someone wanted to build your Okanagan home, and as you can see above, we put an Okanagan. Now we're going to get a snapshot of that area. So we're now focused on the map area. This is kind of Kelowna, and you can see as you go north, you're getting into Peachland, Summerland, or I guess sort of the other way, Lake Country, Vernon, all that fun stuff. You can then use, let me spell Lake Country. There we go. You can then use 3 different styles of imagery. So what we're going to see here next is this is the normal map image, and it's recognizable to me here. But since we are in a very mountainous area, I would like to use the terrain. Right, so you can see how it just changes a little bit. You could leave it that far out. You can zoom in a little bit. You can find the image that looks good based on the area you are. So if I was doing more Kelowna to McKinley Landing, I would probably use this imagery just because it looks really nice to me. And keep in mind, you're manipulating the map on the left, but your finished product is the one on the right. So you're referring to the one on the right. You can also use the satellite imagery. Try that one. For me, in most areas, the satellite imagery is a little bit dark. And what you're trying to do is gain somebody's attention really quick on Facebook, so you don't want them to scroll past it. So the satellite image absolutely does work and can work very well. It's something that's worthwhile trying, but personally I like the normal map, and if you're in an area like ours, use map plus terrain. So that's the general idea for the macro. And then what we would do is after we launch this macro ad, I would probably build at least 2 micros. Kelowna is my main base of operations, so I would probably do one specific to just Kelowna and zoom way in on that. And then I'd probably also do, say, Penticton, just because it's 45 minutes away from where I live. The market's starting to boom, so I'd probably create, even though they are within my macro ad already, I'd create a second or 2 secondary micro ads for those 2 smaller locations. Let them run for 24 to 48 hours, and then determine which of my 3 ads is doing the best. That's probably the easiest to do.
It's easy, guys. I mean, think of it in terms of you guys in the States. Like, here's, I always use my hometown in California, Santa Clara County, for example. Now, when I go to target the Santa Clara County, and with all these counties, you can actually type in Santa Clara County on the actual map area. This is where you actually zoom in or out to that particular image you're looking for, and then you're just going to, again, like Logan and I were referring to, is you're going to use the plus and minus, kind of zoom into the area that you really want to focus in on and the areas that you'd like to work in within the county. So, I might find, okay, cool, check this out, San Jose, Los Gatos, Saratoga, Cupertino, Mountain View. This is all the South Bay. So obviously that is where I would want to target, and I might just give it like, I might type in Saratoga here, California. Maybe make sure you type in the state too, so you don't get the confusion there. Los Gatos, California, and San Jose, California. The guy just got back from San Jose at the F8 conference there. And then the actual area on top is what you name it. So there's a lot of ways you can go. South Bay home, Santa Clara home, Silicon Valley home. You guys know more than anybody what is the name that most resonates with that large target audience you're willing to serve. But what this does for you is it gives you multiple areas to target within the target location. And sometimes we see 2 to 3 times lower cost per leads by widening your target audience than just going to individual towns or cities at a time, or areas, I should say. Obviously, if you have a big city like San Francisco or a big city like San Jose, it'd be worth to actually target that as a test. But just know, it's simple. You literally just typing in those areas. The actual top area is what you're naming it. And then the bottom is where you're typing in your desired area. And usually it's you just use an address as a point of reference and then zoom in or out and just make sure to launch it appropriately to the right, knowing that you can test it 3 different ways within that targeting. You could test it as a terrain, which looks like this. It's pretty cool, especially when you zoom in a little bit and kind of get the mountainous areas around it. You got the satellite and you got the map, all of which can produce different results, which is why you want to consider testing against them. But go macro, go wide, and do a few split tests. Also know, in the future, if you wanted to target specific zip codes, you could. That's also an option. And if you wanted to drop a pin, you could as well. And the idea is when you do the drop the pin method, it's usually more suitable for the buyer funnel. But in the case of you working in a large metro area, you might want to focus on a specific area and draw a radius around with it. And you could, in this case, you draw that, for example, and then you go in and press done, and you've got yourself the targeting, but the targeting would show up as a coordinate. You want to do one or the other. Just remember, for now, we'd rather you have to stay away from the radius and test it more in the future, and just type in the target locations that you want to utilize. We just want you to know that it's not a matter of if your ads are going to work, it's when it's going to work. And sometimes you have to do some testing. In Scott's account, he got it right, but he got lucky just by letting it go. He tried to do one of his own tests, and it worked okay. I think in comparison, you would definitely all agree that a cost per lead of $1 versus a cost per lead of $12 would essentially, we'd want that 95 leads associated to this funnel, and the $2.41 emails, right? We want that $6 phone number, especially knowing that the average across North America, Canada, US wide is sitting at that $20 phone number. So anytime we can tap into a low cost per lead, we're going to want to. So it starts with understanding that you're going to want to take some tests out of the funnels areas, and just, again, trust us when we say, run them all at $9 a day. Don't have to stay at that ad budget, but what we want you to do is let it run for at least 24 to 48 hours before you get that performance score, and then determine whether or not you have the ad that you want to move forward with. If you're tapping into a low cost per lead, obviously you can make adjustments at that point. And what we'll say is, if you click on this little pencil to adjust your budget, changing your budget more than 25% over a 24-hour period may result in resetting your ad performance. It's just something you want to know. So if you're going to end up lowering your ad budget once you get some great lead flow, lower it by $1 at a time and let it run for 24 to 40 hours and make adjustments like that instead of just going from 9 to 5. It wouldn't be the right way, because you could essentially have to start it from scratch that way. Okay? And just run every one of your seller tests right now out of the seller property valuation conversion funnel. Just remember, knowing that this top area is what you put as the name of the ad. So if I fill it in here, right, I want to capitalize the Silicon Valley, for example. And then I would want to use all my target audience in here by typing in the areas within the Silicon Valley one at a time. Okay. It's that simple. So that's why we want you to consider the just naming the target towns and cities that you want to work with, and then use the bottom fill in the blank, just use an address local to you, maybe even your own home, for example, and then just start zooming in or out accordingly, knowing that you could do a terrain, a map, or a satellite, and all three of those could be tested, and all three of those could properly be working quite well. Okay. And so once you launch it, you'll see a little, we'll see a little hamster wheel. And that's when you basically go back to your ads, and you'll see it pending, or you'll see it's launched. And then I would just wake up in the morning or before you go to bed at night, start tracking the performance on it, because it'll literally start showing you how much you spent, how many leads have come in, what's your cost per lead. And, between that and looking at, if you go to the funnel level again, it'll break it down a little bit further into a cost per phone number as well. And then you'll have some really good data in front of you. And then we start working out the automation. So if you look on here, you can start seeing the cost per lead of $1, the cost per phone number, $6, the cost per email, and you have a great 72.6% click to contact ratio, which is beating the 62% national average, right? So I'm liking this funnel. I would turn this ad back on if I were you. And now it comes down to, how do I convert these leads? So, we have lots of training on this, guys. We have in your account, in that free StreetText Academy course, is every Wednesday we do a mastermind. And so for you guys that want to learn from our community, from people like Donna Swansea, who's already had 120 listings from StreetText. We talk about it every week. And we have multiple sessions, and we have guests that we bring on. You can see we can get up to 40, 50 people on here. It's powerful. Just, dissecting every step of the way on how we take these leads into listing appointments, from address onlys to just email, to just curious, to people that say 1 to 3 months, 3 to 6 months, to people that leave their phone numbers, to how we use Julie, the automation that you have that texts those leads within the first 3 minutes. That's going to be a powerful feature that you're going to want to tap into. How to personalize your email signatures, how to embed video into your autoresponders, right? Why you want to consider using BombBomb. It's a phenomenal solution and perfect marriage into starting conversations with them. That's why we just highlighted the Marley example. But then what about scripts? Here's a script that got Jessica 5 listing appointments in her first week using StreetText. What did she say? How did she address the home value? This is all free. And all you got to do to get into this is go into your dashboard and enroll into the Blueprint Academy for free. That's all free for you. Now, if you want to actually tap into somebody who's actually done this and not just trust me when I'm saying here's someone we created a course with. Her name's Donna. She's done 120 listings since starting. She was a teacher before she got involved in real estate. So she's really got a great way as instructing the material that she dissects through. But she'll show you how what she sends in the initial auto email, self-intro, do's and don'ts, what it included in the home value email, how to get the home value, follow-up letters, drip. She gives you an assignment to do at the end of each module, how to handle your address onlys. What about running a contest behind your ads? Why engaging your ads with comments and likes and shares is so important. Obviously, time blocking and how she's able to do that to create success. Why she doesn't personally call or text people, for example. Running Facebook contests, all of which, there's so much, guys. We don't want to overwhelm you, but we just want you to know this is an actual solution, and there's no way you could figure this out in a few days. And that's why we want to really encourage you on looking at the Facebook model, right? Is a top of funnel model. It's all about starting the relationship, creating influence over that relationship, getting value in their hands. And then what you don't know is we're going to actually retarget them. We're going to actually use the pixels from what the clicks happen on that Facebook ad, and we're going to start retargeting them with your content, but it's going to be you talking about the market in a video newsletter style. Makes sense? Lots of good stuff, guys. And that's why we want you to just keep on coming back to these meetings. Come to our weekly masterminds. Consider the Donna course. It is something that, reach out to your individual coach, because occasionally we run a little, we do a little, what would your little bonus. If you do set up one of your longer term partnerships, we'll get you that course for free. Or you can just purchase it if you really are wanting to base it, if you're really serious about doing the Facebook lead generation model. But you got to know that you're going to have a mixed bags of leads. Not all these leads are going to respond to you right away. Like even the immediately ones, doesn't matter. Just look at it as the opportunity to start a relationship with them, and look at every single lead the same, whether they're a partial or full submission. If you think of every single person as a Facebook profile that you just have to get in front of and create a conversation behind, I guarantee you will find a winning solution. But just don't assume just because they say, I want to sell immediately, and they give you details about their home, that's the lead that's going to come say, come list my home today. Oftentimes we recognize a partial email is so much stronger. So if you're going to utilize email communication, consider video should be the way to go, because that, unless you're willing to show up at their home and get face-to-face, I don't see a better solution for you. And if you want a free solution, consider Facebook Messenger. Every single person is a Facebook Messenger opportunity. Every single person, with the exception of some of us in Canada, can pull up tax records and send a simple message to them introducing ourselves. And you know what? If you actually start it now, by dropping them into a list, sending a friend request and a message, doesn't matter if they accept that or not. They're always going to be there. You're going to always track that conversation, and you'll know what you've sent them based on that message you sent on Facebook, because it's always going to loop back to what you already know you sent them, both in the automation side and what you're going to send to them in the mail. And number two, you'll go back occasionally and you'll see whether or not they accepted that request. And if it says pending still, you just simply cancel the request and resend it, and it'll pop up as a notification again, right? Because eventually that's how it happens. I did this with Tom Ferry, guys. Tom and I weren't friends initially, but eventually Tom saw that we had 66 mutual friends because I was reaching out to his coaches. He's like, this guy is somebody I need to talk to. And now we're buddies. So it's no different with how you want to create influence on anybody you want to consider doing business with. If you're coming from a place of authenticity, if you're coming from a place of really truly trying to be someone who's going to be an influence of that community, you're going to do great. And we're going to teach you how to create groups and community groups around these leads too. So you can start featuring local businesses in your community. So you can start doing things outside of just lead generation. Yeah, that's a lot, guys. Why don't we open this up now to some Q&A and, reach out to your individual coaches on Facebook. We love Messenger, and we're going to teach you how to do the same with your leads as well.
I'm able to say I'd love to be able to provide you an exact valuation as to what your home's worth. However, based on the information you've provided me so far, like this is good for an address only and send a mailer template. Based on the information you've provided so far, the best I'm able to offer at this time is the internet's best guess. Then I take that address, I type it into Zillow, I type it into Realtor, and I type it into Redfin, Trulio, one of the other three. I usually give them 3. And I'll say, yep. Zillow thinks your home is worth, $898,000. Zillow thinks it's closer to whatever. Realtor says it's whatever. So I have those 3. And then I say, as you can see above, the internet has no idea what your home is worth. However, as a real estate professional, and with no more than a 10 to 15 minute complimentary walkthrough, not only will I be able to tell you exactly what I think your home would sell for in today's current market, I'll also be able to help you get your home market ready for when you're ready to sell. In other words, you're not saying, I'm going to show up tomorrow and list your home, because they're probably not ready for that. But let me tell you what your home is ready to be sold for now in its current condition, but also highlight the areas in which it's wise for you to spend a couple bucks so that when you're ready to sell your home, you're going to get top dollar for it.
Okay. Yeah. Sounds good.
Yeah. Lots of this, guys. Great material. More of this on the Wednesday meetings where you're going to be in the community with all of our agents and literally hearing go back to the StreetText Academy, which you have access to now, Mike, and anybody on this call, and revisit our last mastermind. It's already been uploaded, and just watch, the first 15, 20 minutes, because we actually start by asking people to share their wins. So you can kind of get some good ideas and understanding of what they did to get to that place.
I can't wait to get started on this.
Awesome. All right. Have a wonderful weekend. I know Logan's got to get his haircut. And we'll be in touch, and just send us a quick Facebook message if you have any questions, concerns, comments, or if you need any help, and we'll go from there.
Guys, thank you. Have a great weekend.
Yeah, you too. Bye.
Go Sox.